guys, it's Kelly. Welcome back to the channel of chilled, relaxed plant content where we talk about our plants and we just try our best to grow them as best we can. So if that sounds like something you can relate to, or you just want to hang out and do some planty stuff, see some planty stuff, hit the subscribe button. Let's be plant friends. So as I said in my previous videos, there's been a lot going on and the plants kind of took a back seat. So now that everything else has slowed down, I'm looking in the back seat and I'm like, oh yeah, so this is kind of, I guess it's going to be like a little mini series of like trying to rehab my plants and get them back to their former glory if I can. And today is going to be the Hoyas that are struggling. They have struggled through my neglect. Yeah. Usually Hoyas can tolerate neglect. Obviously each like species and cultivar of Hoya or any plant really is going to react differently to different types of watering, lighting, environmental changes, neglect, whatever may have you. So I'm just going to show you the plants that I'm struggling with. A couple of them I think are dead. A couple of them I took propagations, so they are hopefully okay. I'm not going to show you the propagations because I'll show you those in another video when I'm ready to pot those up, hopefully soon. So yeah, let's just get into it. Alright, so we're gonna start with the plants that I'm pretty sure are dead. Well, I know this one I'm dead is dead. It was a cutting. I had accidentally rotted the roots because I left it in sphagnum moss too long. Story of my life. But that was my Hoya Michelle. I don't even have the leaf anymore. It like dried up, fell out of the propagation vessel I had it in, and it got swept up with the rest of the leaves, and I just noticed that it was just a tag in my little propagation vessel. So yeah, I no longer have the Hoya Michelle, but spring is coming, warm weather is coming. It'll be okay, and we'll try again. Okay, the next one is also a casualty, and I know a couple months ago I had this in my like favorites video, and I'm glad I did because I can look back and like just be like, oh, it was such a pretty plant. But it is the Hoya erythrina. All of the leaves fell off. This was a overwatering mistake. I mean, I still have like the stump in there, but it's dead. I'm just holding on to it because I'm just too sad to throw it out, I guess. So yeah, Hoya erythrina, I accidentally overwatered. And now we don't have her anymore, so yeah. Okay, the next one is also, it's dead. It's dead. It was the Hoya Patricia. She's completely dead. I mean, it's dead. It's dead. But yeah, this is also another one that I had accidentally rotted the roots in sphagnum moss. I threw it in water. I thought that I had kind of started roots on it again, but the leaves were always like very yellowy, very like bleached out. So I don't know. I think the plant just in general didn't have enough oomph to reroot itself and keep going. And I think this one just actually dried out. The difference between like, from what I can tell as a plant that dried out, is that the whole leaf starts crisping up from like the edges all the way down, where the erythrina leaves, which I know I overwatered, you can see it started yellowing at the base of the leaf and traveling towards the tip of the leaf. So that's how I knew I overwatered this guy. And this is how I'm pretty sure I underwatered this guy. And I think I maybe should have just kept it in water longer, and maybe it would have grown more. I think I just jumped the gun from moving this to a propagation to soil. So yeah, goodbye Patricia. The next plant I'm going to show you, I watered it for some reason. I don't know. This I don't think is coming back. This is the Hoya cardiophylla, and I had noticed that the leaves were getting really wrinkly, and even after watering it, they stayed wrinkly, which is usually a sign of some type of root rot, either dry rot, just wet rot, whatever. The roots are not good. So I took a bunch of cuttings, They are rooting. They're doing good. They're like down there. But I kind of held on to this because you never know. Sometimes like a plant will like grow back, but I don't think this will. And so I'm just waiting for the propagations to root up. I'm going to wait even longer to make sure they have really good, robust roots before I like pull this all out, clean it out, and then put those cuttings back into here. So it's just for now a placeholder in my collection. And yeah, but I definitely, I think it was like a dry rot situation with this again, like the underwatering and then overwatering, and you could just tell sometimes the leaves were wrinkling. I messed up the roots on this guy. All right, another plant that I had noticed that the leaves were wrinkling and not really like filling back up with water was my Hoya Joy. But I took a bunch of cuttings. This was like a larger plant. I took a bunch of cuttings. They're also propagating in water, doing well. I'm gonna wait. And then I left this little base part of the plant because it wasn't completely dried out. Like you can see like this leaf, it is very bendy. Again, I just watered it. So we'll give it a couple days, see how it's doing. But this is usually a sign that the roots are not great. There's probably some roots that are okay, kind of like keeping this part of the plant alive. But it's only because it's such a small plant now that those smaller, less developed roots can even keep these two leaves alive. But what it did do after I cut it out is it sent out this tendril. So this tendril is new. So somewhere in there, roots are redeveloping. And sometimes that's just what a plant needs. Like if the roots are, you know, underdeveloped or not as established, you know, as the plant requires. If you got a huge plant and a little bit of roots, those roots are only going to be able to pull up enough for a little bit of the plant, you know. So sometimes cutting the plant back changes the root to plant ratio enough that, you know, the remaining plant can survive and start growing again and allow the roots to grow and just do okay. So we have hope for the Hoya Joy. Hoya Joy. I just like how that sounds, but yeah, she's still alive, she's still here, but we did struggle, but I think she'll be okay. The next plant is basically the same kind of story where I think just the roots ended up just not as developed or established as it needed to be, or something had happened with the roots. This one I think I know a little bit more, but this is my Hoya incrustada, and this again was also a very large plant. I cut her back because I noticed that the leaves were kind of a little floppy, and they still are. Again, I just watered them, so give them a little bit of time. You can kind of see the wrinkling, I think. But I cut her back, and what I think happened to this plant is my first couple of imports. I have a good, okay, hold on. Let me just finish this story, and then I'll show you something very exciting. So my first couple of imports I did through Asian imports or something like that. I can't even remember their names. I won't import through them again because they started getting like kind of sloppy. So I stopped importing. So the original little starter plants would come in these little coconut husks, and they did have roots most of the time, and they had grown around, and you know, the roots were relatively established, but it was really hard to take that coconut husk off without destroying the roots. I was also really early and new at like getting imported plants and rerooting things and propagating things, so I didn't want to mess with the roots. So a lot of the plants I kind of kept that coconut husk on and just put them in the soil and, you know, kind of did that. And for a lot of the plants it's okay, but it depends on how high up that coconut husk is relative to like stem. So I kind of was able to pull this plant out, and I don't know if you can see, but all of this part was under the coconut husk. So this part of the stem was starting to almost rot because the coconut husk holds on to water, and you know, it absorbs the water from the soil and holds on to it longer, and it can kind of like mess up the roots, which is what happened here. So I noticed that the leaves weren't firming up. I was like, here we go, root issue. So I cut her up. She's in water. The propagations are doing really well. Yeah, so that root to plant ratio has been more equalized so that these leaves have survived. They have plumped up a little bit. They're still a little flimsy, but it's all right. And it does look like We have some new growth right around here. So that is exciting, that hopefully this plant can kind of like correct itself and fix itself and do well. So the Hoya incrusata looking a little shabby, but will one day be full and gorgeous again. All right, the next plant is kind of like the same thing as the incrusata. It's my Hoya morellii, and what I had done, I'd cut up the plant. I have some propagating in the thing, and I had left the original stalk there. This original plant is dead. It's not doing anything, but I had a propagation that I had taken a couple months back, and I popped her in here just to like, I don't know, it was ready to be put in soil, so I put it in here, and she's doing really well. So this plant is doing well. We don't have any new growth yet, but she's rooted in there. She's doing good. You can't pull her out. Her leaves are firm and beautiful. Look at her. I love the lighter venation on the darker green, or like the medium green, I guess. It's not really dark green. It's a medium green, but it's beautiful. She looks good. And then when the other propagations are more rooted and established, I'll pop her in here and we'll have a full plant. But we did struggle and we did lose a portion of this plant, so oops, it happens. All right, the last plant I'm going to show you is my Hoya Bella, and she's a little scraggly. Parts of her do not look well at all, and it's a spider mite issue. With the heat on in here, it dries out, and I ignored my plants, and these guys had spider mites. I did clean them all off, and got rid of any webbing, and it's starting to grow back and everything, but she ain't that pretty. She's funky. This is the funky Hoya right now, but she will bounce back and grow better. I have plenty to work with if need be, but I think we're just gonna let her, I don't know what happened there, but we're just gonna let her be and grow and see what she does over the spring. So the Hoya Bella, just my regular one. I do have the outer variegated and the inner variegated. And the inner variegated I have propagating in water, and the outer variegated is doing okay. She's in soil, fingers crossed, no spider mites, so we're doing good on that. And yeah, those are the Hoyas that I am currently struggling with slash grieving over because they are no longer. And yeah, let me know what Hoyas do you struggle with, if any, and how do you rehab them when they kind of get to the point that a couple of mine have gotten to. Yeah. But anyway, until next time, relax, plant, and peace out.